Perhaps by now you have done the hard work of reaching out to a variety of potential faith partners, communities, and organizations to start conversations about your visions and goals for your project. You have researched your community to assess what some community needs might be, as well as the faith landscape that you have locally. Now what? How do you identify a core human need that will translate across faith traditions, become a realistic motivator, and act as a unifying goal for your group? Now that you have cast vision to potential partners, how do you collaborate with stakeholders to solidify your project goals, strategy, and logistics? This session will dive into these questions with some advice from our faith leaders.
I would start by seeing if there's any kind of interfaith organization already in existence and try to piggyback on the work that they've already done rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. And then once that has taken place, then look for a common area, a common thread. Food insecurity and housing insecurity are the two biggest ones. As we look at, Maslow's hierarchy, physical security is the most basic. So if we can give people some place to live, some food that they can feel is sustainable, wonderful things can happen. But I would start by seeking out a group that's already engaged in interfaith work. If that's not possible, then whoever's in leadership will try to find a faith-based organization that is friendly to that and use them to help reach out to other faith-based organizations.
I think the most important thing we did was listen to everyone, honored everyone's suggestions, and try to wash away whatever preconceived notions we had about this is the way it has to be done. We had to do a little bit of adapting to accommodate everyone's different ideas of, for example, when they could work. We had to honor the Sabbath. The Jewish Sabbath was different from the Christian Sabbath. So we had to make sure that everyone has the chance to work on a day that would be suitable for them. Also, dietary restrictions were important because we met for lunch. And so we had to just always be aware and don't be afraid if you have a certain thought about something, say it, because it will be honored. And everyone knew that whatever they said was going to be listened to and respected.
We have a large number of minority faith communities in the city, and it's a great city, but it is not always a judgment-free zone. So to have that stated and intentional was very welcomed. And it challenged all of us, too, to wonder how are we going to make this space different.
I think it's really important to have a core group of people who are committed to putting in the hard work, especially at the beginning. And that's what you have here. It's also really important to be a welcoming space for new folks coming in. I'm a newer member of this group, and I've really appreciated the way that people have reached out to me to help me feel comfortable and included. I know that I'm not going to get everything right the first time and that there's a steep learning curve, and that's okay. And having that comfort level really helps me to want to engage more. I think it's also really important to maintain strong partnerships with other organizations and other groups in the community that can funnel people into this work. And so that way there's a continuing outreach to the community so that people who would be interested and curious about this kind of work know where to go, and they have a access point into further interfaith work.
In doing interfaith work, you work with people from diverse backgrounds, diverse religions, and being able to bring people together, you end up nurturing a relationship, a friendship that opens dialogue and conversation, and essentially, hopefully, will continue to grow even after, in this case, even after an interfaith build. So the outcome of having a positive impact on somebody that you met and continuing that friendship and that dialogue, that conversation, is what keeps me going. And with the interfaith build, the outcome is all the faiths that joined to build a physical structure, and seeing the joy and the happiness on the face of the family that's going to reside in that house.
Me coming as a pastor from the Lutheran Church, from Christ Lutheran Church here in town, and others as a rabbi or an imam or just lay members of various faith communities. But now we were a group, and we had a common goal. We were making decisions together. So obviously that changed us individually. It also deepened and strengthened that network. And we used that network not just for Habitat for Humanity, but then we would find ourselves inviting some of the new friends we'd made at Habitat into some of our other circles. So it's really strengthening the interfaith network in the community.
It's wonderful to have interfaith dialogues, and Habitat in general is a fabulous organization. So this really gave an opportunity to bring it all together, to have a project for our community, to have the interfaith, and really doing something that really impacts our own Colorado Springs community.
Another thing that I've really appreciated about Habitat is that we can challenge them again and again. And we have, as we have tried to articulate who we are and what we're doing as an interfaith build. So when we had already had our first dedication of a house and we got to the second one, we realized that there had been some discomfort in our multi-faith, pluralistic audience and that had participated. So we asked Habitat, could they look at their very Christian-centered dedication service, which they have used for hundreds of houses, could they look at it and consider opening it up for us to make it more comfortable for people who did not identify as Christian? Could we make it more available for other faiths to bring their blessings and their ways of dedicating that maybe were slightly different than what comes out of the Christian tradition? And we weren't asking Habitat to stop being a Christian faith-based organization. They are who they are. We just wanted to stretch the boundary there so that all of us could feel like we were participants and we were comfortable in taking part in what was happening in that house dedication. Maybe you get to work with a future homeowner and you hear their story and you understand the struggles and the victories along the way. You learn a lot. And it takes you out of your own little microcosm of your life and your limitations, and suddenly you understand better what some of your neighbors are dealing with.
And so we have a need to support, to encourage, to walk hand in hand, arm in arm, shovel by shovel with everyone of other faiths, to do good on this earth, to build and create housing for others, to feed, to serve, to lift, to comfort the hands that hang low, to mourn with those who mourn, and to create pockets of heaven around this earth. If enough of us in all faiths are creating pockets of heaven on this earth, then we have enough pockets to actually create heaven on earth.
I think developing those friendships and those common goals is really important. This is all teamwork, and if you've ever played a team sport, it's really important to understand the different roles that different people have, and one's not more important, one's not less important, but everybody has to do their part to make the team successful.
So the one other thought with interfaith work is to equip your community with the difference between theological debate and respectful curiosity. We don't have to avoid talking about religion, but we need to do it respectfully and acknowledging that other religions are perfectly acceptable.
One of the concepts that really has worked well is different faith groups working together on the build site. When you sweat and sometimes even bleed with another group of people, it develops that relationship much more quickly than sitting down and having structured conversations. So I remember the very first build I was on with a group from the Broadmoor Christian Church, and a couple of us digging a drainage ditch. I mean, it was really physically fatiguing. And the conversations we had were so real because they were not filtered by anything except the fact that we were laboring hard together. So I think that structure, the idea of sharing lunchtime and potlucks and having more organic conversations as opposed to, well, here's the topic of the day, let's talk about this. So things moved very naturally, and I think that's a great structure.
I think it's really cool to see all these different faith traditions working together on a common goal, which is a permanent affordable housing. I think this is going to make a really lasting impact on a lot of people's lives, and it's just really cool.
I know that I'm not going to get everything right the first time and that there's a steep learning curve, and that's okay.